We're going. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Important Bits episode 3. We're doing a little new format here because all the other ones have been local, but my guest today is Max, and he's in Australia. So that's pretty far away. We couldn't really figure out a local way of doing that. So we're doing it over Skype. So this is the first time I've actually also done this over Skype, Max. So thank you for being on Skype with me because hopefully it goes off without a hitch because the internet is always like does its own thing, but I'm confident in the internet these days. It's 2019. I think we did it. So my guest today is Max Hertan. I've been following his stuff for months, and I reached out to him, and I was really excited to he actually responded extremely quickly too, by the way, which is awesome because most people don't even know how to respond, myself included. And he's just such a genuine guy, and he does all these amazing skill stuff that he's going to tell you about in a second. So Max, thank you so much for being here today, dude. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. This will be fun.
Thank you. So I guess the first question I always like to ask is asking people about their background, but I would love to hear also a little bit about like a funny story that you have like in your history that you like to refer people to, or something that you just like to tell people. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're 2 drinks in at a bar and you want to introduce yourself to the group. What do you say?
Yeah, from my childhood. So my background, I was like a really naughty kid at school. So the first story that comes to mind it's not a great one, but prank calling the fire brigade, definitely not something that I'm super proud of, but at the same time, I was just a really, really cheeky kid and always wanted to entertain my friends and didn't really respect my teachers that much some of the time. And during recess, there was a public phone and we would prank call 1-800 numbers every single recess because they were the only free numbers that we could call. So we'd make up funny voices and pretend that they're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and anything that would make like a 9-year-old or I think it was maybe like 7 or 8 laugh.
Oh man.
And one day every single number that we would call was instantly hanging up on us. So we had no one to call. So we're like, let's prank the fire brigade. Like that was the next natural thing that we thought to do. Terrible idea. They ended up coming to my school. I admitted to it. And then I wrote them an apology letter, and apparently it's on my personal record. So I don't know if that's the best story for my people liking me, but yeah, it was just something. I was a little bit of a rebel growing up. I just always wanted to entertain my friends. I was always thinking of cheeky things to do. Yeah.
That's wild. So literally the fire brigade came down to your school after this, huh? And was that weird? Was that did your teachers have to did they chase the whole school down? Or did you just instantly be like, oh, that was me, my bad. Sorry, everybody type situation?
Kind of, yeah. So I think we had 3 trucks rock up. And, I hear all I'm back in class and I hear all the sirens and my stomach drops. And I'm just like, I've done a terrible thing. Yeah. And, the teacher was just like, who did this? And I just put my hand up straight away. And I'm like, yeah, it was me. And so they were grateful that I admitted to it straight away, which is why they said that there's usually a $10,000 fine and they alleviated it for that.
Especially because you were 7, right? I feel like a $10,000 fine is excessive for a 7-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. And my mum still has a note that I wrote to the fire brigade. She never sent it to the fire brigade, and you can see my handwriting and it's charred. It's like, sorry, fire brigade, I will not do this again, Max. So that's kind of a funny thing. It's one of the many stories that lives on from my childhood, from the dumb things that I've done.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, that doesn't translate, at least it looks like, into your adult life. Have you kind of always felt like you've been able to kind of just entertaining? Like you said, you wanted to entertain your friends and you wanted to kind of do stuff that was kind of out there. Did you ever wanted to start when you started your YouTube channel initially? Was it to be entertaining, or what was your kind of initial kind of foray into YouTube and motivation?
Yeah, so there was an accumulation of a lot of factors where they just all piled up. It started to become something that just made a lot of sense to do. So for me, it was I loved learning new things. So my whole life, I'd always kind of invested in learning new things. So I liked a platform where I could learn new things. I wanted a way where I could give back in some sense, because I was starting to have some success in my business. I was freeing up some time in my life, and I was thinking about how can I make an impact on the world. And I think one way that you can be impactful is to influence a community of people with positive ideas on happiness, success, and giving back. And so I thought, well, this could be a fun way to get people to learn and be interested in me. And then I can translate some of the ideas that have been useful for me to these people. And then I also thought it would be a really good way to access really interesting experiences and teachers. So as my channel has grown, now I'm doing a singing challenge next month, and I've got the singing coach of John Mayer. So his coach, John Mayer, and the cast of Glee, and I can't remember, but like
that's so awesome. What?
Yeah. So that I'm getting access to his team, and I get a unique experience that necessarily isn't available for the public because I have a channel. And, in my stretching challenge that I recently did, I got access to this really kind of cool, quirky guy, Tom.
Yeah, the Marines guy, right?
Yeah, the big, strong guy with the long hair.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And so I get to learn directly from these people, and then I get to translate my learning to a community. So there's a lot of reasons that kind of stacked up. And now here I am a few years deep and still kind of rolling with it.
So that's amazing. So you said you started a business and then you started a YouTube channel after your business, like too. What is your business exactly? I know you mentioned it in your $1,000 a month challenge when you were trying to do that, but like I don't know actually what you do. So like I would love to.
Yeah. So about 7 years ago, I started I've always been entrepreneurial, and so I started a digital marketing agency called Megaphone Marketing, and now we're a team of 22 people here in Australia. And we have over 100 clients, and we help them acquire customers mainly through Facebook advertising and Google advertising. And so I've learned a lot about building a business, sales, marketing, hiring, culture. And through that process, another reason was I noticed like businesses being built on the back of personal brands as well. And so I thought, well, if people trust me, then they might trust my company as well. It's something that I haven't really put in a lot of my content yet, but it's definitely, the options there where people go, oh, Max seems like a genuine guy. He's got a business where he helps a business like mine. Maybe I'll reach out. And so we have picked up a few clients from my personal brand as well.
That is extremely interesting because like I think a lot of people want that. You know what I mean? They kind of want to have a personal reputation and a personal brand. They want to be able to translate that into kind of like their more entrepreneurial adventures or just their kind of like life in general. And have you noticed that like kind of like it seems like you must be really busy like juggling all these things like through your like being the CEO of your own business and then keeping up with these monthly challenges and doing all the recording and editing, not to mention doing the challenges themselves. I mean, do you ever feel like kind of like overwhelmed, or is it like what's the kind of like your thought process and scheduling throughout a day to handle all this stuff?
Yeah, so I'd say like if I had to have like the thing that seems to like separate me from other people in one of the major senses is my ability to like optimize my time for everything that I do, because people have always said that about me. In like high school, I used to just do like a lot of different hobbies. They're like, how do you do that and manage everything? And I think it's just I'm very conscious of how I spend my time always. So an extreme example is like I will buy a hybrid car because I get to fill up my car less, so that way I might save an extra 2 hours a year on filling up petrol. Or I buy socks that can be dry instantly out of the laundry, so I don't need to hang them up. That says 1 minute every time I do my laundry. And so I take that framework of every single micro detail that I do in my life, and I bring that also into my YouTube channel. So I do now for the last year have a video editor, and so I give him all the content. He does all of the production. In my company, I've got a CEO, I've got a second in charge, and they're running a lot of the operations. So I'm doing more like strategy and so with everything, I've tried to figure out, well, how can I do the stuff that I'm good at or that I like, and then how do I give the other things to other people? And so overall, I actually, I'm looking for more projects.
Wow,
I'm actually
that's
looking
awesome.
at starting another company because I have freed up a bit of time. But I do make sure that I don't want to drop the ball on anything as well. So I don't want to take on too much that I start to like, give 50%. Yeah.
Have you, so you're good at the kind of like the 4Ds then of like the delegation, the like do or, defer, or like it's the last one, I guess deletion is the fourth D, or it's like a lot of these people who talk about time management. Cause I know that I'm not irresponsible with my time, but I'm not great with my time. So hearing you say that is like really kind of interesting to me too, because like I don't know how to optimize my time. Was there any kind of like resource that you used to kind of like stay focused, or is it just kind of like you were just like, oh, I'm just like this since high school, and like it's fine, like this is just my thing, you know what I mean? Like I'm good with time.
Yeah, I mean, I read books on time management, and I really like the idea of I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was like the third dimension of time,
Hmm.
and which was you can do something now that will save you time in the future. Um, and so, an example in my business is you can like with bookkeeping, you can create rules. So every time that someone makes a payment, you've automated the rule, so you just click a button, and it takes longer to set up in the short term, but then in the long term you save time. And
Hmm.
so what are the things where you could invest an extra hour of time now, and then that gives you additional time in the future? That's just like a philosophy that I think about in my own life, and I'm always thinking about. But yeah, I don't know if there's been a specific resource, as much as I just think that I don't know if I'm wired that way, or it just kind of makes a lot of sense to me. But that I just really like that. You know, I get really excited when I figure out how to save like a small amount of time in my life. Yeah. So, and it's weird because sometimes I have nothing to do, but I still
You
want to figure out how to save more time.
you definitely seem like a time kung fu master, and I love that because like they always say that like time is scarce and like it's really important to manage it really well because it's the only thing that's actually going down. Whereas like capital can go up and down depending on how you use it and kind of like your resources and you're building your brand, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess to pivot a little bit, so like obviously you've done a ton of challenges and you've like done a lot of physical and mental, which I really respect. I think you have a nice balance of okay, I'm going to learn to backflip, then I'm going to do violin. You know what I mean? I'm going to do Spanish, and then I'm going to do like kickflip on a skateboard. You know what I mean? So like, how have you felt like you know when you're like learning all these things? I guess like I have a few questions that I want to get into. Is that like what's the first? Is it just like you're just really interested in doing something and pursuing something? And then I guess the second thing is like how do you balance all these things? Like, how do you feel? You know what I mean? There's a lot of like different skills and stuff that you're learning and stuff. And can you like continue to do them like after you're done, like the minimalism one and stuff like that?
Cool. So was the first part of your question? It just cut out for a second. How do I pick the challenges, or
Yeah.
is
Hmm.
that what you said? Yeah. How do I pick them, and then how do I balance them in the future?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So picking them, whenever like someone like maybe like someone like yourself might go, wouldn't it be cool if you did X? And then in my head, I'd be like, yeah, that would be cool. I'll write it down. And so I keep a list of maybe 100 different ideas. And then when I don't have an idea, I'll scan the list and I'll try to find something that fits into my life currently. And so sometimes I'm feeling a bit sluggish, so I want something physical, or sometimes opportunities kind of align where I'm like, oh, I have time to do an intense one, so I'm going to try to learn Spanish. And then other times I'll be like, oh, I actually want to work quite a lot of my business at the moment, so I'm going to do minimalism because it's actually going to help me free up more time. Right
Hmm.
now I'm doing digital minimalism actually, and so it's good because I'm actually filming two challenges before I go on a trip to Burning Man, and
Oh
so
my
I
God,
didn't want to
you're
pick
such a busy
two.
dude.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to pick two insane challenges. So digital minimalism, if anything, has given me extra time. I still need to film and I still need to think about the storyline of the film, but I've got extra time to do my second challenge, which funnily enough answers your next question, which is I'm revisiting the last 24 challenges to see how is my skills currently, where am I today? So, I'm going to have a Spanish conversation. I'm going to attempt a backflip. I'm going to, I just mentioned the Ninja Warrior gym a few days ago and tried some of the obstacles. Um, and the interesting thing that I've found is a lot of the things that I've learned that I've basically stopped. Like, for example, I might have picked up the violin once in the last 2 years since
Oh
I
really?
learned it. But I can pick it up, and I'm basically at around where I was at day 15 for everything. That's the funny thing. Like it almost like I feel like it almost takes like an additional 2 weeks to cement your learning. And so like I learned for 2 weeks and then I learned for 2 weeks, but I cement the knowledge that I learned in the first 2 weeks. And that's seemingly where I can kind of just stay for a lot of these challenges. So yeah, it's cool. I'm going to revisit, I've tried juggling as well. Um, and yeah, it's been fun for me to revisit these and see kind of where I'm at. But yeah, some of them may be better than I suspected, interestingly.
That is so interesting, the day 15 thing, because like I'm a big fan of the Ebbinghaus learning curve and kind of just like how things start off slow, but then you have a steep pick up, and then you have a logarithmic kind of like path to mastery, 10,000 hours, Malcolm Gladwell stuff. So when you return to these skills and you find that, okay, cool, I'm on day 15 again. Like if I wanted to get better at them, I could, but you feel like you haven't really like lost any of these skills, is what you're saying? Like it's still, they're all there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, kind of weirdly enough, they're all there. Like, you know, I'm curious, something like electronic music production, that one might be, because it was less about like muscle memory, it was more like very specific technical things.
Mm-hmm.
So that one, maybe I'd be lower. But for the most part, I think I can pick them up pretty quickly, which is cool. Like, you know, it kind of makes the whole project, you know, more fun in some sense, because if I just lost them all 2 months later, then it might feel a little bit meaningless. Or, I mean, there's still a meaning, but it might remove some of the meaning. But the fact that, you know, if I do this for 5 years, you know, I'm going to have 60 random things that I can kind of
Which is awesome.
yeah, just, you know, I walk by some jogging balls or violin or whatever. I just did a piano challenge as well. So, you know, I love the idea of just being comfortable in so many different environments and being able to talk to so many people about their passions and having a decent understanding of what it feels like to do that. You know, I think that's really enjoyable for me.
Has that come to fruition a bit? Like since you've been picking up all these skills, have you been able to kind of like meet with a concert pianist or like, you know what I mean, or someone who juggles for the circus and be like, oh, I know exactly what your life is like, or like, or at least we're able to talk shop.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say like for sure, like you know, there's been countless times where people go, "Oh yeah, I'm into juggling," and then I'll be like, "Oh cool, I tried to learn to juggle 5 for a month," and they'll be like, "What the hell? Like that's really hard." I'm like, "Yeah, it was really hard." And then we can have a good chat, or you know, skateboarding, and you know, I really appreciate skateboarding. I appreciated it before, but now like I could sit and watch skateboarding for an hour and enjoy it because you know I have a better understanding of what that, like how difficult that is and how scary that is, and you know, and then I just appreciate the beauty of it so much more. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of the time there's a lot of things that I enjoy more, or I can connect with people on a deeper level because I have some working knowledge of that skill, or you know what it feels like to do that.
Right, and just like what it feels like to be in that skill and be involved with it and the pain that comes with it, as opposed to kind of just like what people see from the outside, which is like, oh, that's easy, but we've never actually done it, so I never know if it's easy or not. Have you felt like when you start a skill, is it just that you set aside 30 days and you're like, I'm going to give it an hour each day and I'm going to document an hour on camera, or is it more like more or even less deliberate? Like what goes through your mind through these 30 days?
So one thing that I've learned is, as much as possible, try to speak to someone that knows how to learn it beforehand, and let them help you set a framework. So like with Spanish, for example, the goal was to try to do 3 to 4 hours a day.
Right.
Whereas with meditation, it was 10 minutes a day. So there's no set, and like digital minimalism, it's kind of nothing. Like it's just not using Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. So each one has its own kind of different structure. But you know, with digital minimalism, I spoke to someone that's thought about it deeply right at the start, so that some of the pitfalls that I might fall into, some of the software that you can use, some of the psychology behind it, I was kind of primed so that I have a good starting position. And yeah, that's kind of, you know, with the piano thing, you know, figuring out, well, what's my structure going to be? How fast do I need to move on a daily basis? Where do I need to be by day 15? And just kind of having a rough structure helps me stay on track. Because on my violin challenge, which was my first one ever, I got to like day 23 and I was still really bad. And I was just like, I just would do like 3-hour sessions, like freaking out. And that wasn't
Really?
fun. Yeah, because I didn't have a teacher. I tried to learn just from like, yeah, I thought I'd just be able to pick it up. Like I was really just poorly prepared. Violin's a difficult instrument. And then I got a teacher and I didn't really gel with her teaching style. So then I found another teacher, and it was only by about day 22 where I started to like, you know, be able to consistently make a nice sound on the violin. And yeah, and so I've learned my lesson from earlier challenges on what not to do. Yeah.
So you're saying what not to do is just to jump right into it. It's better to kind of like reach out to someone who's been there and then kind of like have them set you on the correct path before you. How do you reach out to these people? Is there like LinkedIn or something? Like, how do you know, like, you go to a master juggler, you just go to the nearest circus and you just like be like, can you teach me how to juggle, or what I need to know, or like, what is it? Like, how do you find these people, I guess?
I mean, that's basically it. Like, I posted my personal Facebook. I just did handstand. I just Googled handstand Melbourne, and then I emailed the top three, and then two of them got back to me, and then I picked the one that I thought looked the coolest. Like, there's no like magic to it. When my channel was really small, I'd usually pay because there was just little value in it for them.
Right.
Salsa classes and juggling, I just pay for lessons. But now that the channel has a good enough following, most of the time people are willing to do it for free in exchange for promoting their Instagram or promoting their website.
Right.
Which is cool. It eases the burden for me, because it is kind of still a hobby. It's not necessarily a business, my YouTube channel, at this point.
Interesting. So like, because like, it seems like, like, that makes sense. A lot of people also want to reach a point where they are able to leverage their brand or channel to be able to not like get free stuff, but like to be able to like you connect with people, like you were saying, that they wouldn't have been able to connect to, like you were saying with like, your challenge with the stretching and everything like that. Have you felt like, I guess, that like kind of like going forward into the channel and kind of like building it out, as do you potentially see it as a brand, or is it still something that you're just like, oh, this is a great side thing to talk about, and be like, people are like, what do you know, like, what's your fun fact? You're like, oh, I have 85,000 YouTube subscribers. Like, is that like something that, like, you know what I mean? Like, what is it? Do you have like a goal for the channel, or is it just kind of like its own thing?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One is like, I'm going to do it for 5 years. I've just mentally committed for 5 years, 60 challenges. And then at that point, I'll reassess how impactful it is and how how the time being spent on the channel is being used relative to how I could spend it in other ways. But like, mentally, I've committed for 5 years. And so in the 5 years, I want it to be as impactful as possible. And to me, impactful is like, making positive, influential changes on people's lives, and people picking up new skills, and people, also just people just, the content around the challenges is something that I like as well, which is about success and happiness, and, and networking. And if you're feeling stuck, and, that stuff, I'd love to get more people watching, because I feel like that content, it's taken me a long time to figure out some of those things, and I'm still figuring it out. But it's type of content that 5 years ago I would have really appreciated. So, I am trying to make it, I'm conscious of, I don't want to do a challenge just because I think it'll get views. Like, I don't want to be like,
Right.
I don't know what's, becoming a fidget expert spinner in 30 days or something. But I'm also open to being guided by what I think will be interesting. So, because that will also inspire me. So there's like a balance. But yeah, I'm constantly thinking about how can I make the channel better? How can we make the videos better? How can we make the thumbnails better? So that it can be more impactful, and therefore I can do more interesting things, and therefore like it'll just be like a positive spiral loop. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No,
yeah,
that's
like
perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking
Cool.
from my own personal experience, I think that you reached that goal with me in terms of like me being less afraid of new skills to pursue. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I recently picked up singing as well, actually. And I recently
Amazing.
picked up a few other skills. I've been like working on my habits and stuff like that. And a lot of that comes from like the stuff that you did and being like, oh, wow, I can do this too. You know what I mean? I think sometimes we need to see people doing the things that, that we don't think can be done before we attempt to do them, if that makes sense. So how is kind of like, I mean, like, I know that you had that whole skin thing for a year while you were dealing, because you down under in Australia. Oh my gosh, yeah, there it is. It's way healed now. I actually lived in Sydney for 6 months. I was at Macquarie University for study abroad. But yeah, how did that like kind of like, I mean, one of the things that surprised me about your channel was that you didn't address it that often, but you didn't complain about it. Like, you were very positive about the whole experience and just kind of like, whatever, that's life, like it happens. And like, that's infectious, you know what I mean? Not the skin disease. That was a bad pun, but I mean the positivity. So like, how do you stay so positive? How do you like, you know what I mean? How do you stay so chill and calm and level headed?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an interesting experience to go through. So like, yeah, I got a flesh-eating bacteria, was on antibiotics for 4 months, had a big hole in my arm. and then had surgery with a skin graft and was stuck in bed for a few weeks. And then I had like a full arm cast. And this was actually right at the same time that I got accepted to Ninja Warrior in Australia.
Oh my
And
God.
so I couldn't train, I was stuck in bed while every other contestant is training their ass off. I'm stuck in bed. It's one of those classic things of, for one, I'm just like grateful for my life, and everything else. I think I am a pretty like positive person. Yeah, and I kind of talk about some of the strategies on that in like some of my videos about building a good network around you and constantly growing and removing digital distractions and removing things that don't serve you. And I think all of those things lead into a hard time for me, where you have friends and family that support you because you've given them a lot of love and support, and so in those hard times you've got people to look after you, and then also just the excitement of moving towards the future. But yeah, it definitely was it definitely slowed me down. That's the best way to put it. It really slowed me down, and I really tried to think about, well, what are the growing experiences that I can get from this experience? But yeah, like as I was getting the flesh-eating bacteria, I was still trying to learn Spanish, and I still
That's
did.
amazing.
I went down from 4 hours a day to 2 hours a day, but I still was doing 2 hours a day, despite having to go to the hospital every second day. And I'm lucky enough in the sense that I've structured my life where I could have the time to do that. But yeah, I also allowed myself to be upset at times as well, knowing that there's more fun and exciting times in the future as well. But yeah, it was a growing experience. It was something that overall it really wasn't that bad. But yeah, it was just another random interesting experience that I went through, and yeah, it really wasn't that bad.
I love your mindset on that. You know what I mean? You're very much just like, that's just kind of life, but I have good people around me and I'm looking forward to tomorrow regardless. And I'm thankful for today, which I think is like one of those things that not a lot of mindset genuinely, and pretend to do that mindset and pretend to kind of like get themselves in that state, but to genuinely feel kind of like grateful for what's already been given and then excited for tomorrow is something that's awesome. I love to ask people like, what is your kind of like end goal in life? Not that everybody needs an end goal, and it's kind of just sometimes about the journey and et cetera, et cetera. But like, if tomorrow, money is no object, you know what I mean? That you just have everything you ever wanted. What does your life look like? Like, just go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that, because like I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think a few years ago I would have said like happiness, and I think happiness is a really all-encompassing word, because your own personal happiness can be derived from giving back, as well as doing the things that are in line to your own values, and so trying to optimize your own happiness. But as I'm kind of going through a little bit of a spiritual journey right now in life, going to Burning Man and going to these different events. I just came back from this networking event over in Croatia with all these amazing entrepreneurs. And I think one guy was saying, and I've started reading this book called The Second Mountain, where your first mountain is about your own personal happiness and your own accumulation of, love and good memories and experiences and wealth, which I think are totally noble things to pursue. But I think in the second mountain, this book talks about is like finding ways where you can feel significant in the ways you're giving back. And so I think with no money, no object, and then, assuming that I'm in love and feeling loved and feeling nurtured through those things, and, my health is in order and some of those baseline things are ready, then I think the way, the mission that I want to devote myself is to something where I'm just really passionate about its positive impact to the world. And so I really like animal rights is a cause that I like. Education is another cause that I'm passionate about. And so I still feel like there's a little bit more of like accumulation that I want to do in my life before I'm ready to fully commit to that mission. But I think that that's kind of what's going to serve my long-term spiritual happiness, where you'll just kind of be a little bit more unshakable, because you're, all of these little like things, that you have in your life, they won't matter as much, because you'll be working towards something bigger that you'll be really proud to be part of.
Right. And it's like less about yourself as opposed to the greater self. You know what I mean? The bigger universal self of like I'm helping the entire world grow and not just myself grow. I love that. I think that's really wonderful. So educating animals, that's what we're going for, right? That's the future is
Potentially. Yeah.
teaching animals how to read. I love it. So okay, so wow, that's really awesome. I guess like one of the things I also wanted to ask, I had a whole laundry list of questions, and I'm kind of just like running through them mentally in my head as you're knocking them off one by one. Is when you were just getting started with your YouTube channel, and like obviously, like you said, you see this more as a platform to kind of like spread the things that you want to spread, and like really kind of like get people to pursue their own skills and become like a positive platform for you and others. Has like have you noticed that there has been like any, because like I maybe am asking this from a bit of a selfish perspective. I recently started my own YouTube channel and have been struggling to kind of like find a niche, but also an identity that I can provide value, but feel comfortable with the stuff that I'm doing, you know what I mean? And feel honest with myself and authentic. Has this like always been something for you where it's just kind of like, I'm just going to document my authentic self, and it just worked out amazingly? Or was it like a bit more of like a methodical, okay, cool, here we go, type thing?
Yeah, I'd say from the start, I was heavily inspired by a guy called Max Deutsch, who is a blogger who also did 12 monthly challenges. And I was just really inspired. I was just like, that's cool. Like he's just made himself so much cooler. He's created a fan in me. And he actually was interviewed on my channel as well. And he's just a super cool dude. And then there's another YouTuber called Mike Boyd, who was also all about skill acquisition in the shortest amount of time possible. And I just really enjoyed watching his videos. Like for whatever reason, the type of content of watching people learn things is really satisfying to me, because it kind of shows me, I was like, whoa, like if he can do it, then maybe I can do it. And there's so many random skills and things that you can add to yourself and make yourself like this more well-rounded, interesting, diverse. So I was kind of inspired by some other content creators. And so I think I was like, cool, well, that's what they're doing. So I kind of tried to, if you watch my earlier stuff, I think I put a bit of my own style on it, but I think I also was like leaning into their style a lot. And that was okay to get me started. It gave me like a place to get started, but it wasn't good enough or strong enough or unique enough where it could stand out, I think, because if you're kind of leaning into someone else's style, then they're already doing it really well. And so it's going to be hard for you to stand out. And so I think with a lot of trial and error, I kind of started to find my own style. I like in this piano, I just tried to learn a really challenging piano piece. I did a history of the piano piece. And to me, like, that's kind of interesting. Like, I would like to watch that and take away that piece. And maybe I'll talk a little bit more about some of the technical things about piano and, just even the way that we're shooting it, the way that we're doing our thumbnails now. I'm starting to find my own style, but it's really taken me like a couple of years to kind of get into that. Like what is the content that I'm excited about? So I would say like, yeah, I mean, I think it took me like 10 months to get to 1,000 subscribers, 10 or 11 months. And now I've just done 24 months. So with like, just over 80,000. So it definitely took me a long time to figure out what I was doing. Like I definitely didn't hit the ground running. And, and I was like a little bit insane. Like I was spending 100 hours on a video sometimes and putting it out to like 200 subscribers. And then I'll just go next month, another 100 hours into a video and like 250, do you know what I mean? So I was like spending a lot of time proportionately for the amount of views that I was getting. It was very low. And you do have to be like very like, I think to be motivated enough to do that, you need to have like a very clear vision of like, this is good. It doesn't matter that no one's watching it. Like I know that this is good. So therefore I'm just going to keep doing it and trying to get better.
I think that's awesome because I think I need to hear that too. You know what I mean? There's like so many new creators out there who just want to like start their own authentic thing. You know what I mean? I think one of the things, maybe it's more of an American culture thing. I'm not really sure in Australia, but entrepreneurship isn't necessarily like frowned upon, but it's like, it's a risk. You know what I mean? A lot of people are like kind of like, why take risks, especially when there's so many like kind of like good jobs and stuff out there. And a lot of people are like, oh, I kind of want to start my own thing. I want to be my own person. I want to have my own business. Obviously that ties into, whatever your personal situation is with your finances and stuff. But I think that when you kind of get started, it's really easy to get discouraged off the bat. You know what I mean? It's really easy to kind of feel disappointed with, like you were saying, how slow things are going, or when you put in 100 hours into a video and get like, 250 views and be like, wow, that was so many hours of my life and people aren't watching this shit. Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So, like, that resilience, do you think it was like because, like you said, you watched your own videos and you're like, this is it? Like, I know that I've hit like a good like pacing and I know it's just only going to take time at this point? Or was there kind of like you got spotted by the Wendy Williams show or something and they were like, here, check this guy out, he's making amazing content, and then like you saw like a bunch of people kind of like join your community? Because I guess like whether we like it or not, it is kind of like nice to have the feedback from the people, you know what I mean, and kind of like have like someone to see what you're going through, and like you were saying, having something bigger than yourself, whether it's for self-validation or whether it's for just kind of like necessary good and proving to people that you're actually providing value to society. What was the kind of like thing that when you were first getting started with your business and YouTube where you were just like, no, this is good, like I know that this is going to end up being successful if I keep putting effort at it?
Yeah. So with the business, it was similar. Like it was very slow, and I had a modest goal of how much money I wanted to make in year one, and I wanted to make $20,000 in year one, and I made $19,600. $19,600.
That's
That's four
close.
hundred dollars off.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, that's close enough. I'm going to keep going. But it kind of mentally, I was like, I'm going to have to get a job if I don't hit this number. So therefore, I'm going to work hard to hit this number. And there was no like hockey stick moment. It was just like slowly figuring out things and like, cool, I can get better at this. I can improve my sales process. I can get better at this skill. I can do more lead generation. I can try some cold calling. I can go to this networking meeting. And that kind of worked and that kind of worked. And then, I'd pick up a client here and there. And then at the end of the second year, I was like, oh, I'm actually now making decent money. And now it's like clearly something that I should invest in. And with YouTube, yeah, I've just finished year two as well. So year one, I thought that my videos were better than they were. In my head, I was like, these are just as good as every other creator. Like, why are they not like blowing up? And it was just because I didn't know what I didn't know, and I'm probably look at the videos that I'm making now in 2 years' time and be like, whoa, like they're not nearly as good as what I'm doing now,
Right.
Because you're just constantly learning about story, about emotional arc, about, you can look at your watch time percentage and you can kind of see where people drop off. And you go, oh yeah, obviously that part wasn't that good enough. So then next time in the next video, you'll kind of just start to get more awareness on what people like. And so, yeah, I think there was no like moment in my YouTube channel which really like helped things take off. I think, for me, I had the advantage of already having a business. And so I didn't need it to take off. I had income coming in, and and I was willing to kind of just throw some time and money into it a little bit to see how it goes. But I think the major thing for me was just like committing for both of these projects was committing to a vision. It was just like belief that I will keep reiterating what I'm doing until I find something that kind of works. And I think this year more than any year, I've actually made a couple of videos that have done quite well. Like the stretching video, the minimalism video have done well. The Gary Vee video did decent. And so I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get my success rate, my hit rate on videos are getting higher and higher. And like, I don't think that's because of another sort of subscribers as much as my ability to make a captivating thumbnail and title and make the watch time better in the video.
And like building that captivating story that's gonna like the whole product basically as a organic thing has been growing in a positive direction, is what you're saying.
Totally. Yeah.
So I guess that like, one thing, if you had to kind of like, if you were jumped back, turned back the clock 1 year for your YouTube channel and turned back the clock, however many years for your business. You said you've been in this business for 4 years now, 2 years. How many years?
7 years, yeah.
7 years. And if you had to like turn back to like the beginning, you know what I mean? And like obviously everybody goes in there like, oh, I should have done X, Y, and Z, and hindsight's 2020, et cetera, et cetera. But like, what kind of like good takeaway advice do you feel like from the bottom of your heart is like, even if it's stupid, even if it's like spend more hours on your thumbnail than your video, you know what I mean? But like, what is it that like is something that people can implement to just like kind of just like not necessarily rocket their growth, but kind of like go through the iterations faster? Like you were saying, you know, you love to talk to experts and say like they're like, don't do the violin like this or don't do this like this, and then you'll be growing a lot faster. So what after all of these skills you've learned and compressed in your YouTube and your business, what helps people grow fast?
Yeah, I mean, with business, I mean, with both things, like mentors is like number one. Like, if you can find someone that's already done it and that they're kind of self-aware to understand how they've done it, and then they can just like, decompress that into like sharp knowledge and actionable knowledge for you, that's amazing. And so in my business, I ended up having like 10 different mentors across, a few years. And I just reach out to them on LinkedIn or email them and just keep following up until they say yes or no. And then I'd buy them lunch and sit with, someone that's worth $100 million for an hour and just be like, tell me what you know about sales.
That's amazing.
Not as vague of a question as that, but I would just sit with them and I'd research them heavily. I'd really try to understand what they're expert at. And then I'd try to get as much value as I could that could implement in my business. And I did the same for YouTube as well. I spoke to other YouTubers and I actually, paid for time with a couple of like top YouTubers with over 1 million subscribers. And I realized that a lot of them are not super self-aware. Like they don't, they kind of have just been at it for a long time. And, they kind of got into a niche that worked and then they kind of had a couple of viral videos. And if you look at a lot of YouTubers, a lot of them just have like a very like scattering of like successful videos mixed in with a lot of unsuccessful videos because they're just trying to like throw stuff at the wall and figure out what works. And, there's exceptions, obviously, like the top guys like really understood something. But speaking to them, yeah, I mean, for YouTube, the biggest things that I've learned is like click-through rate matters massively because I was looking at videos and they're getting 100,000 impressions and only, a few thousand views. And it's because like the click-through rate was like 2.5%. And so I was like, well, if I could get that click-through rate up to 5%, then not only will that give me an extra 2,500 views, but it'll mean that YouTube will show it to even more people. And it actually might give me an extra 20,000 views. And so that comes down to the title and the thumbnail. And so really trying to think about what is a thumbnail that you would be excited to click. And then, the other thing that people say is watch time. So trying to cut out the stuff that doesn't really help engage people in the video so that it's just more excitement in the content so that people at the end of the video are more likely to still be on the YouTube platform. And therefore YouTube wants to show more videos where people are going to be hanging around in the video.
Oh, wait. Okay. Wait. You could that disconnected for like 30 seconds to a minute. Can you rewind 30 seconds and say the last thing that you said before you checked out was click-through rate, like went up double views and then it went bloop. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so if you had a click-through rate of 2.5% with 10,000 impressions, you get 2,500 views. But if it was 5%, you get an extra 2,500 views. Plus, YouTube might show your video to another 100,000 people. So you actually might get an extra 7,500 views. So click-through rate really matters. And then watch time is another thing that really matters. And what that means is just to try to sharpen up your video to remove the stuff that people aren't actually watching or staying through. So that way you're more likely to click another video, the higher your retention time is on a video. And so if your retention is 35%, that means that there's a chance that you might exit the YouTube platform. But if your retention is 50%, then that means a lot of people are staying on the YouTube platform and then going to click another video. And so your retention percentage will be influenced by how much kind of noise that you cut. So, a lot of the time introductions and outros and talking at cameras in my videos work poorly. So, in the video that I'm just about to launch, we've tried a different outro because no one like the retention on the outros is like 11%.
Right.
So we're trying to put the outro before the final performance to see if that influences the watch time positively, the watch time percentage. So again, I'm still figuring things out too, but using that advice of what I've learned, I'm trying to implement that into my videos to see how that influences watch time percentage. And hopefully we can get, 45% and then move to like, 50% one day. And then YouTube will be like, yeah, we want to show this to more people now.
I find YouTube to be such an interesting platform. I know you're under digital minimalism challenge, but just the fact that, you can watch people from all over the world and kind of learn so much deeply about their lives without ever having to meet them or talk to them. And then, like you're saying, you talk to these million plus YouTubers who just seem to got lucky with the algorithm, and then they're just like, I don't know, I just kind of stumbled on it. You know what I mean? Like I just like released a video about my cat and it got 14 million views. Like, and it feels like sometimes like we're all kind of like playing this algorithm where it's not necessarily a free market the same way that like kind of like, you know, business A versus business B, and like what does business A offer and can we get it cheaper at business B? Whereas like on YouTube it's kind of like, oh, here's a bunch of content that you may or may not like and you won't know until 6 minutes into the video. Good luck. You know what I mean? But like our algorithm is going to suggest something that we think that you are going to stick around for and watch and stuff like that. So it becomes this kind of like two like bi-part game where you're playing one game against the algorithm, and then you're playing another game against the people who are actually watching the video and saying like, oh, which parts are you clicking off at? Like, how can I understand you more and become a better version of this, you know, channel or whatever my goal is, so that you actually stick around for the whole thing. Have you felt like this is kind of like, I mean, obviously it's just a platform and it might not be around forever, but like, have you felt like you've had like a generally good experience on YouTube, or like you were saying, it's like you're just like it's a hobby now, and like once you hit 100K though, I think you're gonna, you know, you're gonna get that play button and you're gonna be in the top whatever percent, like 5% of YouTubers or whatever. So like that's awesome, you know what I mean? And like I
Yeah.
feel like that's something that at that point you could very start seriously considering being like, okay, now I'm having some serious weight to this thing. So I know there was a lot to unpack there. Algorithm, people, 100,000 subs, you know what I mean? But yeah, what are your thoughts as well? Not really a question, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, I totally agree with you in the sense of like it's this weird game where you're like you're trying to make content that's authentic to you, that you really are proud of, that the YouTube algorithm is going to promote, that has a high enough click-through rate, that people are going to engage with you as a person so that they're interested in your content, so that it has a positive influence on their life. You know, there's all of these different weighing factors. I think like to make it fun for me, I want to make content that I'm proud about. Like if I'm making content that I'm proud about, you know, that's kind of baseline level. And then I want people to watch the content that I'm proud about. And that's the next kind of level. And so I'm really just trying to balance those two factors and not trying to think about too much other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, YouTube as a platform, what do I think about it? You know, I think it's cool because unlike basically every other social media platform, a lot of your content just dies. It doesn't have any lifespan. Whereas I made a video about skateboarding, you know, 19, oh, was it? Yeah, it was like about, I know it was about a year and 2 months ago, and it still gets like 3,000 views every day. And
Wow.
that's pretty cool. Like if I made that same thing on Facebook, maybe it would have gone well and got like 10,000 views, and then it just dies and no one ever sees it again. Whereas on YouTube, it just constantly gets views. And it ranks for certain keywords. If you type in how to draw, my video ranks, and that gets like 1,000 views a day. So that's pretty cool. Like YouTube is a search engine. It's a suggested video platform, kind of like Netflix. And so for those reasons, and they also just give their creators a percentage of the ad revenue, which isn't, you know, a lot of other platforms are kind of starting to do that, but YouTube's the only one that really just does it effortlessly. So I think it's a really cool platform. But as time has moved on, it's getting harder and harder to stand out because
Mm-hmm.
like the people that are content creators are making money. They're taking it as a serious profession, and so they're making incredible content. And so when you're getting started out, you need to have either a really unique personality or a unique angle, or, you know, beautifully created content to stand out from the so many amazing creators out there. And you know, I think people are trying to approach building a channel that maybe would have worked 3 years ago or 4 years ago in today's climate, and it just doesn't really work. You need to be better. Like you can't be good. You need to be excellent. You know, and I've learned that the hard way, where, you know, I just can't be pretty good. I just need to constantly reiterate and go, how can I be better? How can I be better? Like, how can I make this like super high quality content?
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's like kind of stressful in its own right, right? Like when you're competing against the best. I guess it's good because it helps you grow really quickly. You know, like obviously you probably have become a lot better by pitching, punching above your weight, as opposed to like being like, oh, I'm just winning off of like crap videos or whatever. So I guess it's a kind of a blessing in disguise, depending on how you look at it. But do you feel like kind of like, going forward in the YouTube climate, like you were saying, is most important to be authentic to yourself, and then it's most important to make content that other people want to watch from you? Like, is that just like gonna be your path going forward, you think, and like just kind of like seeing what happens and just being like YOLO?
Yeah, essentially. Like, I want to make content I'm proud about, and I want people to watch it and hopefully have positive experiences watching it. And but yeah, that's the basis. I also want to do the things that I want to do, and so if I like, singing to me is, I'm a terrible singer, so like I just want to do that.
I can't
Do
wait
I
to see
think that
that.
that'll be a good video? Yeah. I genuinely don't know. I like the fact that I can use John Mayer in the thumbnail, but I just don't know if that's, I think that has a chance of being a good video, but I just want to do it. Like the digital minimalism one, I really wanted to do. I don't know if it's like this, it's in the media, it's in the zeitgeist, people are talking about it, but I don't know if it has the potential to be a viral video. It's something that I want to implement in my life.
Right.
And I wouldn't have predicted the minimalism video to do as well as it did, or the stretching video to do as well as it did. And so that's another thing as well. And then like the memory video, I was like, this is good content. Like, whoa, like I've really put something amazing here. And then like that one didn't work. So, that is the name of the game as well. You got to, for every few pieces of content that you put out, a few will kind of go well until you really build that really solid, true tribe fans, which is, really challenging to do.
Have you felt like you've built that tribe yet? I mean, obviously I reached out to you, but do other fans kind of like reach out to you and treat you as like a guru? Do you get stopped on the street now? Like, what's it
Yeah.
like?
Not really. Like, I think I have like a small group of fans, and people like DM me on Instagram every few days, and I'm like happy to respond to every single person. I try to respond to basically every single comment. So if you can basically look at every video, and any video, I've probably responded to 90% of the comments. So I try to like engage with everyone that's engaging with me. But no, I don't think like anyone treats me as a guru or anything like that. I just think that some people had positive influences from that content, and then and then they appreciate it. I've had maybe like 6 or 7 times in my life people have gone, oh, are you the challenge guy? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. And they're like, cool. I'm like, yeah, thanks for saying hello.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny, because that's that's really what it boils down to sometimes. You know what I mean? You make a positive impact on people's lives, and they recognize you, and they're like, oh, thank you for the stretching video you did, or thank you for the meditation video you did. Like it really helped me kind of like move my own life forward, which is, I guess, like you were saying, what we all want in that second mountain. Well, thank you so much, Max, for your time tonight. I really do appreciate it. Or I guess today, where you are, I forget that it's it's like noon there, and it's also cold because you're wearing your jacket because it's winter, right? It's in the
It is
middle of
winter.
Australia's blistering winter. I miss Australia so much. I can't wait to go back. Is there anything else that you wanna just say, or anything like that? Like that was like a personal thing to you, or?
No, that was pretty comprehensive. I thought you were asking really good questions. So yeah, it was fun for me.
Thank you so much. I really greatly appreciate this. And thank you everybody who is hopefully going to watch this video, and I'll see you later.